This meeting is being recorded.
All right, so the first answer is 2 because 0, 1, and 2 in order to alert Apple. So take a second and answer the next question. Okay. What is the result of the following expression? Math dot square root of 36 is 6. So, oh, wait, take a second to answer the next question. Please fill in the blanks to output the current minutes. So to do that, so we've created a new date object, and then we just do date dot get minutes, and that'll get the current minutes. Oh, dang it. Oh well. Well, this one is B because R1, 0, 1 is B. And take a second to answer the next question. All right. Drag and drop the options below to get alerted with the value of the pi constant. Alert.math.pi. And now here we are on this one. So, oops. David S., can you read this one?
You are working on a store manager program which stores the prices of an array. You need to add functionality to increase the prices by the given amount. The increase variable is taken from user input. You need to increase all the prices in the given array by the amount in output to the console, the resulting array. Use a loop to iterate through the array and increase all items.
All right, so just raise your hand when you're done, and also move on to the next question after this one. Don't forget to raise your hand once you guys are done. All right, looks like most of you are done now. So for this one, it wanted us to increase the prices. So we've got our starting prices here, and then the random user input that we want to increase it by. So while prices.length is greater than A, we're going to take prices, so whatever, whichever this is, and technically, I mean, since we know how many are there, we could just go 1, 2, 3, 4. But this is how you would do it if you didn't know. And then so whichever item it's on, so it's on, it starts with A is 0, right? And then it increases the price. And then we do A plus equals 1. We could also do, A plus plus, same thing. And so now A is 1, so A is 1, we're over here. We do plus equals to increase the price, so on and so forth, and then print it to the console. So is anybody struggling with this one, or do you just need me to leave this up here longer? If so, just unmute and let me know. And Mike, looks like you got it figured out finally.
Yeah, I did. I was approaching it wrong initially, and I did it a little bit different than yours, but it worked.
100 ways to skin a cat. As long as it all comes out, it's all good.
I did an equal to operator and then did a plus whatever. I got the same result.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody need me to leave this up?
Hold on.
Okay. Just let me know when you're done.
Done.
Okay.
Can you explain that? A while?
Yeah, it's just a while loop. So with while loops, it like as long as this condition is true, it's gonna keep executing the code. So in this case, prices.length, we figured out the length, so how many items there are, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So while 4 is greater than A, then it's going to do this. It's going to take A, which right now we do prices A, which from the array, because remember, this is the way to change the values in an array. You take the, like, if we put, A.0, right, or prices.0, right, it's taking prices and it's taking the first item in the list or array. And then we're doing plus equals to increase it by the price, right? So the while loop, and then once it's done, it increases. We do A plus plus or A plus equals 1, either one. And then now A goes from 0 to 1. So then in here, now A is 1, right? So 0, 1, it takes this one and increases it, then A plus equals 1, so A is 2, gets to that. And eventually it gets to the point where A is greater than the length of this list, and so it just stops. Does that answer your question on while loops?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
Why is it why are you plus and equaling and then the increase? What is that? Is that
well, increases the random user input. So they wanted us to, like, whatever the increase variable is, whatever the random user input is, it wants us to increase the price by that much. So
by how much?
By exactly. Whatever, right? It's a random number. We don't know. It could be like 10, 15, 3, 8.4. We don't know, right?
So this is creating an interface to type in a number, a price, and then it will increase whatever price variable is in there.
No.
Or I'm having trouble understanding the.
Yeah. So, okay. So this increase variable, see, anytime you see this parse in read, or really anytime you see this read line, right? That's SoloLearn's way of telling you they're going to give you some random numbers, right? They're not telling you what the number is, but it's going to be something random. Probably it's a bunch of stuff saved in a file. And then they're just randomly picking one from it, right?
Right.
So, so we don't know what this number is. So we have to account for any possible number. So like we need to be able to write something to handle whatever random number they put there, right? So
Right.
we've got, so that number is saved in this variable increase, right? So what we're doing, it wants us to like increase each of these prices by whatever number that is. So we're doing a while loop to go through each of the numbers that are currently saved in prices and increasing them by whatever this number is. So this plus equals, so plus equals is the same as, you know, prices 1 equals prices 1 plus the increase. Plus equals is it takes whatever your current value is. So like prices 1 right now is 15.2. It takes
And
that.
why are you increasing it by? Oh, I see. The A
Yeah.
is representative of the first number in the string.
Yeah, so A starts as 0.
Right.
And
So
this number here
it goes
is
through that whole
actually,
process, then it starts at the next number. And it goes
right.
through that
Yeah.
process.
Yes, exactly. So the while loop keeps going until this is no longer true, until A is no longer less than the length of this list.
Okay.
So yeah, so once it gets to 4, then it stops, right?
I get it.
Huh.
Okay, so this is the calculation. This isn't the for whatever number you put in. This is not the input. This is the while loop is the input, like the calculation. I mean,
Yeah, the while loop goes through each of the lists and then it executes this code each time that this is true. So like long story short, what it's trying to do is, and we could have done this with a for loop too, but I'm not gonna get into that. So it long story short, it takes whatever the current price is and increases it by whatever number they randomly put into this increase variable. Does that answer your question?
yeah,
or no?
that's what I'm having trouble with because I was like, man, I don't see all the variables here. I don't like I'm missing something and I don't know how to plug this in, like put it together so it'll work.
Yeah, you just gotta like follow it with your head, or like you gotta visualize it in your head, like what is happening, because like you see the code, but it's like, okay, well, what's happening? You're not just, it's not just executing once. You got to visualize how it's gonna execute, you know, over and over again, to, you know, throughout its iteration. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was having trouble with. Thank you.
Okay, great. Does anybody else have any questions on this, or anybody need me to leave this up for a minute? Nope. All right. Well, then let's continue. Oh, we're on to the DOM. Nice. This is very important. So this is like how you do everything in JavaScript and yeah. So Mike, can you read this one?
When you open any web page in a browser, the HTML of the page is loaded and rendered visually on the screen. To accomplish that, the browser builds the document object model of that page, which is an object-oriented model of its logical structure. The DOM of an HTML document can be represented as a nested set of boxes. JavaScript can be used to manipulate the DOM of a page dynamically to add, delete, and modify elements.
All right, take a second and answer the next question. Okay, what is the DOM? The document object model. Roger, can you read this one?
The DOM tree. The DOM represents a document as a tree structure. HTML elements become interrelated nodes in the tree. All those nodes in the tree have some kind of relations among each other. Nodes can have child nodes. Nodes on the same tree level are called siblings. For example, consider the following structure. For example, above, HTML has two children, head and body. Then the head has one child, a title, and one parent, HTML. Title has one parent, a head, and no children. Body has two children, H1 and an A, and one parent, HTML. It is important to understand the relationships between elements in an HTML document in order to be able to manipulate them with JavaScript.
And it doesn't say it, but H1 and A are siblings. I'm sure y'all probably figured that out though. All right, take a second and answer the next question.
Maybe it would have made more sense to start with SoloLearn teaching us this bit first.
At what part? You mean like when we were doing HTML or when we were doing, or like
With
when we started
JavaScript.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it definitely could have been helpful, but it's all good. We haven't really been working with like manipulating different parts of the DOM yet, so it hasn't been too important. I mean, they could just focus on the the programming aspect, but yeah, I get where you're coming from too. So all right.
And this looks like the way you would set up an HTML sheet.
Yeah, it is. And it's important to know because like we're gonna be like changing parts of it. Like you don't just write the script to do nothing, right? You're gonna want to like display it somewhere, or you're gonna want it to change something in your document. So like maybe we're gonna want to like put the answer from our JavaScript into some paragraph somewhere, in here, right? And but well, we'll get into it. But you might want to manipulate the children or the parent elements of it. So you just need to understand the flow of the document and what these things are. But we'll get more into it. Okay. So in the following HTML, which element is the parent of H1? And in this case, it's P, because even though normally you wouldn't have an H1 in a paragraph tag, but in this case it is. So, but generally the parent of H1 is going to be the body. But all right. And Brian, can you read this one?
The document object. There is a predefined document object in JavaScript, which can be used to access all elements on the DOM. In other words, the document object is the owner, not or root of all objects in your web page. So if you want to access objects in HTML page, you always start with the accessing the document object. The body is an element of the DOM, which can access it using the document object and change the content of the inner HTML property. The inner HTML property can be used on almost all HTML elements to change its content.
So this is really important right here. And generally we don't do like document.body.inner.html because you're not going to change all, because that would change everything you have in your document to this some text, like everything goes away except for that. So you're generally not gonna do that. But this .inner.html, like when you learn about document.getElement by ID, then, or like maybe you wanted to change, I don't know, all your H1s to some new title or something, I don't know. Then you could do like, document.body. H1 .inner.html or whatnot. But this is really important to, change whatever text you have in there to what you want it to say using JavaScript. So I think I said take a second to answer the next one. So we'll move on. All that apply, the document object is the root of the DOM and inner HTML is a property. Okay. Lewis, can you read this one?
Selecting elements. All HTML elements are objects. As we know, every object has properties and methods. The document object has methods that allow you to select the desired HTML element. These three methods are the most commonly used for selecting HTML elements. In the example below, the getElement BYLD method is used to select the element with the ID equals demo and change its content. The example above assumes that the HTML contains an element with ID equals demo, for example, div ID equals demo.
So of these three, this one, which I've mentioned a few times now, document.getElement by ID is by far the most used one, because you're not generally going to change everything in your classes, or I mean you might, or everything by tag name. Like generally you're going to want to get specific and focus on changing the specific ID of either the div, paragraph, whatever form even that you're given that ID to. So take a second, answer the next question.
So what does the get do? What is that command?
It lets you change whatever. So here, actually I can give you.
So like,
Is this
Like
like essentially
HTML.
calling one of your ID elements to apply that specific script to that specific element?
from your HTML page, right?
Not necessarily. Here, watch. I'll give you an example. Right. Here. So, like with this example, all right. So, I'm so right here. Okay, here's a basic, HTML form. Oh, no, right here. Basic HTML form, right? And then it's you have to do your submit button, right? But what I'm doing here is I added an on-click function that does event dot prevent default to stop it from submitting when somebody clicks the submit button, and then it does this function, my function up here, and it uses a confirm. So like you guys learned about alert boxes, prompts, and confirm. Well, it's using a confirm saying, okay, are you sure you want to delete this book? This action can't be undone. And if they click OK, because it's an if this ends up being true, and if they click OK, then it makes it true. If they hit cancel, then it's false. But if they hit OK, then it does document.getElementById myForm.submit, and it submits the form, right? Another great use of document get element by ID is to do inner HTML, like they're talking here, right? So here, actually, let's go to a test page. Right. Text. So if we did document get element by ID, and then we named this div ID equals my div, and we did dot inner HTML equals new div text, right? So we're telling it, okay, get this div right here and change the inner HTML to new div text. So now if we go to that page, so test. Oh, didn't work. What did I type wrong? There we go. I did. I spelled inner HTML wrong.
Did you save it first?
I don't know. But hold on. Wait, that was in this first one. Oh, never. Yeah, I did save it. I spelled inner HTML. Okay, this should be working. Oh, I guess it wanted it to be after it's already created the div. And that's generally why we put the script tags at the bottom of the page when you've already created your divs and stuff. But anyway, so it takes what whatever HTML was there, deletes it, and changes it to that. Now you could do plus equals and then it's going to take your current text and add your new text to it. But generally we just do equals and then you just change the text. But either's fine. Does that answer your question on like what the document.getElementById kind of does? Like there's different things you could do. Like you could do like .enter_HTML, change to HTML, .submit, all sorts of other things that we'll learn about. But any questions on that so far?
So all it really is a pathway, right? And then it changes it. So you identify what you want to change and then you change it. And
Right.
that's the path
Or
you go to do it.
well,
That makes
if
sense.
you do .enter_HTML, yes, you change it, but you can also do other things. Like I was showing the submit button to have it, let it submit the form and stuff like that. Mike, you were the one that asked the question, right? Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. So for example, if I wanted to maybe have some sort of alert or prompt on a button, all the buttons for the page, like, I don't know, are you sure you want to proceed? An alert. And I gave all of those buttons an ID of button or submit button or something. And I did, document get element ID button or submit button, whatever I named those. And then that script in there would apply to all the buttons. Is that correct?
Yes, but again, if you're doing that, you'd have to do prevent default first and then process it and tell it to submit, because its natural thing is just going to be to submit it. So unless you, well, I guess if after, no, not if you want to make sure they say okay, because if they say cancel, then it's still going to submit.
Well, I mean, not necessarily that specific. That was a bad example on my end, but like, for example, just if I want, basically, this is like, so if CSS, for example, we call whatever HTML element, or we list the element and then what CSS we want to apply to it. In JavaScript, we're going to use the get element ID to essentially tag whatever element we want the script to apply to. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not just whatever script you want to apply to, but whatever you want to do to it.
Whatever functionality.
It's just a way of referencing it and getting it and then doing something one way or another.
Okay. I think I have a very bottom level understanding, and we'll continue, and I'll either get more lost or I'll figure it out. One or the other will happen.
I think it's what you're talking about, like with CSS. So like in your CSS file, see where's script
Down at the bottom. Oh.
CSS. So like with CSS, like how we reference, IDs or whatnot.
A footer or a header, right?
Yeah. Like, there's one with an ID, not just a. Well, actually, these would be IDs of ID footer, but yeah. So like, just like you like with CSS, you do like hashtag footer and then execute whatever blocks of code in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get tags or tags in JavaScript, you do the document get element by ID and then reference it by the ID number to get it, and then do something with it, whatever's on the other side of your equals.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, this one doesn't have an equals, but it calls a function, which is the submit function. But yeah, okay.
Would we be putting these get elements into the HTML page? Or, I mean, are we creating a JavaScript page, or how do we incorporate this into our...
You can do just like you link. I think we covered that earlier. Where was it? I'm pretty sure we covered it earlier with like linking pages. So like, yes, you could have like like right here, how we've got JS in a separate file, right? And like you could have your JS all in a separate JS file, or you could just write it embedded right into the page, just in script tags, just like right here. Was that answer your question? Was that what you were asking?
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around this, but like, so, but we can do either or
Yeah.
or if like a certain button has a very different functionality from another button, would it be better to put it into the HTML directly, like, or?
It doesn't really matter. Either way is fine. What is important is where you put it. So like generally we'll do our, let me see if I got something where,
Because the reason I'm asking is because, you know, if it
so
it
like
goes
generally,
through a certain order of operations, and then I guess it loops or goes back up. So if it's in a different file, I mean, will it only go through that?
it runs it the same way. But like, see, all right, so here's an HTML document with well, I'll teach y'all later about HTML1 and HTML2, just so you can sandwich stuff together and then write once, use multiple times. But anyway, so here's the bottom of the document, right? Because it's got like down here's the body and the HTML. It's like past the footer and everything, and that's where we generally do our script tags in order to link it to. So like all you have to do to link to JavaScript is you just add the script tag with the source, and then the source of where you've got it in your thing. So like this one's an asset slash, you know, JS, right? And then the different things that we use. But if you put it at the bottom, then like that problem I was having before, how I put it on top, but it's like, okay, well, that div hasn't been created yet. So it doesn't have anything to reference, right? But doing this is the same thing, like doing this right here is the same thing as just creating a script tag down here and then putting all my script in here, right? It doesn't matter that it's in another file. It just matters where I call it, right? So like I could take everything from this file right here and paste it right here and then delete this line and it would all come out the same. Does that answer your question?
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't know
Okay.
you could script source.
Script source? What do you mean?
Yeah, that's how you put it. Script src.
Oh, yeah. Reference the source of your.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I know too little about this, Brandon.
No. That's why you're here, to learn. So I don't expect you to come to a class and know everything about the class beforehand. I mean, unless you're just there for a refresher. But yeah, that's why I'm here to answer questions. So where were we? Oh, any more questions on that topic before we move on? Okay. Wait, is this, no, this isn't it. I'm in the wrong section. Let me see if we finished this. I don't remember.
No, not the questions.
Oh, okay. Well, here's the answer to this one. I accidentally clicked through, but yeah, so var text and OB, because OB is the name we gave to that document get element by ID, and then we reference it, you know, ob.innerHTML equals hi. So I mean that's another way to do it, or you could just do document.getElementById and then the ID name equals hi. That would work too. It's the way I generally do it because it's faster than throwing it in a variable and then doing it. It's the same thing. All right. Will, can you read? Would you mind turning on your camera and reading this one?
Camera's broken.
Oh, okay. If you could just read it then.
Sure. Let's see. The get element by class name method, it returns and collects a collection of all elements in the documents with specified class name. Let's see. For the example of our HTML page containment, 3 elements with class demo, the following codes would return all those elements as an array. Similarly, the elements by tag name methods returns all of those elements of the specific tag name as an array. The following examples get all paragraphs elements of the page change their contents. The scripts will result the following HTML. We will use the length property of the array to loop through all the selected elements in the above examples.
Okay, sorry. So, and that's another reason doing, by tag name or whatever, or by class name is a pain and generally not what you do. Like I said, generally you'll do by ID because there's just one, and then you can change that one. But it is possible, and then to loop through each one and then change it to something. So, all right, take a second and answer the next question. Okay. So for this one, fill in the blanks to select all div elements and alert the content of the third div. So var r equals document.get element by tag name, and we're getting all the divs, and then alert, you're getting the inner HTML of that. So I guess that's something I really haven't explained. You don't just need to change it. You can also, by not putting like an equals, if you just do get element by ID and then the ID inner HTML, and like you put it into a var, right? Var whatever equals whatever, then you'll get what that inner HTML is. So it's not just about manipulating it, it's also about retrieving it if need be. But anyway, getting the third one, since it starts with 0, 0, 1, 2 is the third one. So moving on. Ayani, can you read this one?
I thought he wrote "be right back" earlier, so he
Oh,
might
okay.
still be gone.
Kevin, can you read this one?
Working with DOM, each element in the DOM has a set of properties and methods that provide information about the relationships in the DOM. Element child nodes returns an array of an element's child nodes. Element first child returns the first child node of an element. Element last child returns the last child node of an element. Element has child nodes returns true if an element has any child nodes, otherwise false. Element next sibling returns the next node at the same tree level. Element previous sibling returns the previous node at the same tree level. Element parent node returns the parent node of an element. We can, for example, select all child nodes of an element and change their content. The code above changes the text of both paragraphs to new text.
Okay. So again, this is why we need to understand it in case you need to do any of these. Generally, you're not going to have to do this very much, but it's still important to understand the way the DOM works and understand inheritance and, you know, child nodes, sibling nodes, whatever. Just so if you do want to use something like this, you know how. But 9 times out of 10, you're just going to be doing document.getElementById and then referencing exactly what you want to change. But anyway, continuing on. Oh, can a node in the DOM have multiple parent nodes? No. It have like grandparents, but no. All right. Just do this one. Can't remember. Oh. And Samantha, can you read this one?
Changing attributes. Once you have selected the elements you want to work with, you can change their attributes. As we have seen in the previous lessons, we can change the text icon or text content of an element using the inner HTML property. Similarly, we can change the attributes of elements. For example, we can change the source attribute of an image. We can change the href attribute of a link. Practically all attributes of the element can be changed using JavaScript.
Okay, take a second, answer the next one. Okay. And for this one, get element by tag name. Well, fill in the blanks to select all images from the page and change their source attribute. So doing get element by tag name image, because we want to select all images. And then we're doing a loop to iterate through the length of the array that's generated by doing get element by tag name. And then we're taking the array, whatever number it is, because, you know, with the for loop, like let's say there's 4 items in the list, starts at 0. So R1, or sorry, not list, array. List is with Python, but it's the same thing. You know, dot source equals demo.jpg. Okay. So Jacob, can you read this one?
Changing style. The style of HTML elements can also be changed using JavaScript. All style attributes can be accessed using the style object of the element, for example. The div code above changes the text color and width of the div element. All CSS properties can be set and modified using JavaScript. Just remember that you cannot use dashes in the property names. These are replaced with
Camel case
versions where the compound word begins with a capital letter. For example, the background dash color property should be referred to background color.
Okay. So take a second and answer the next question. And does that make sense to y'all? The camel case. So like all you have to do is just start the first letters not capital, and then each word is capitalized instead of like with CSS background dash color, just like that.
Is that why on your code that you show, you have essentially started all of your elements with DA lowercase, and then you just put your basically the name of the element in uppercase, just to keep it simple?
Yeah, it's just like I write like the list, like it's the list, but
Sure.
just because I generally only do that if I've already, like if I've, well, one, list isn't something you would want to just write because that's has like meanings in like Python and stuff. But generally, like if I've already, let's either one, I've already used it. So like, let's say, let's look at an example. Like your variables, you can't have two of the same name, right? So yeah, like right here. So it's got, you know, title, whatever, but I've already used that variable title. So if I want to use it again, but no, it's a different instance of it, then I'll do the title, just because it's that way it's a different variable name. That's just my personal way I do things. That's has nothing to do with a programming way of doing
Sure.
it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but then I mean I will often do stuff in camel case and stuff like it's talking about there, just because variables have to be one word. You can't add spaces in between them. So instead I just do them as camel case. But again, that's just my personal programming style. It's, you can have your own style, you know.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So moving on. Fill in the blanks to change the background color of all span elements of the page. So it kind of the same thing as the last one, but it does document get element by tag name, so it's going to get an array of all the tags. So we create a for loop to iterate through that array based off the, you know, dot length, while x is less than, you know, the length of the array. Then so s, and then when we put those brackets, it's our way of retrieving whatever number. So like if x, the first x is 0, so it first starts off by getting the 0, 1, so the very first element in the array. Then it goes to the second, third, and fourth, or however many there are. And since it's a for loop, we tell it once it's done doing this code right here, do plus plus. So moving on. Oh, and it is 3. So we will, well, we'll take a vote, because I don't know how much you guys have gotten done on your CSS. Maybe a lot of you are pretty much done with CSS and it's a waste of time to just take the time. So all in favor of ending now to give you guys a chance to work on your resume page, the CSS, go ahead and raise your hand. And if not, we'll keep going for 15, 20 minutes or so.
We can do another 15 minutes, that's fine.
Well, it's not fine because the majority wants to stop.
Well,
So
okay, fine, whatever.
so in that case, I'm going to